Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Sam, and I am the CleanBC Community Energy Coach. Our program supports communities, local governments, and industry stakeholders in the promotion of the CleanBC rebate programs, as well as the education of heat pumps. We are also joined today by my colleague, Elena, who will be presenting for you. This webinar will be recorded, and all rebate amounts are reflective of what is available today, October 13th, 2021. For the most up-to-date information, we always do suggest checking out our website, betterhomesbc.ca. We are also joined today by Jessica Beaubier, who is the Climate Change and Resilience Coordinator at the Regional District of Nanaimo, to discuss RDN's Green Building Program, as well as Ilse Saradi, who works as an environmental technologist for the Cowichan Valley Regional District, and she's joining us to speak about the CVRD's wood stove to heat pump program. I do encourage everyone to use the chat during the webinar. I'll be monitoring if you do have any questions, and I'll try to answer those along the way. We would like to acknowledge with respect the Coast and Strait Salish and Wasanic peoples on whose traditional unceded territory we are presenting today, as well as the Lekwungen, Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanic whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. And I definitely invite everyone today to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory you're joining us on this evening. And with that, I'll pass things off to Jessica with the RDN to get things started.
Thanks very much, Sam, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. This is the first webinar of the RDN's 2021 Fall Webinar Series. And we've designed the series to focus on connecting residents with knowledge and resources they might need to tackle climate action from home, both for reducing emissions and for improving resilience and comfort of the home environment. We're partnering with on the series with the Cowichan Valley Regional District, as we have a lot of common goals for improving climate adaptation and air quality for our residents. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. Just a bit, this fall webinar series is part of our regional district's green building program, which has been connecting residents with sustainable technologies and building material methods since 2012. We have a number of resources to support green building and more sustainable design approaches, including our Green Building Guidebook series with our Sustainable Site Planning Guide and our Green Building Rebate Program. The rebate program is available to RDN electoral area residents only, but it provides support for things like oil to heat pump changeouts. And we also run a wood stove exchange program that's open to all RDN residents to help reduce air pollution emissions from wood stoves. And that has a rebate for changing out a heat pump, changing out a wood stove to a heat pump. And that rebate's a $400 value. So more information on those programs is available on our website. And these are partnered with our Water Smart and Fire Smart programs, which also address community resilience. So if you want more information on those programs, you can head over to the RDN website and get a bit more info. This webinar series is part of a number of webinars. Sorry, we have a number of webinars running as part of the series. So if you're interested in getting more information on electric vehicles or home energy efficiency how-tos, or building new homes with climate resilience in mind, then please check out these dates. There's more registration information available at this link displayed on the slide here. So if you're interested in joining us for any of those, we'd be happy to have you join. I'm going to pass it over to Ilse at the Cowichan Valley Regional District now. They have a slightly different context for us, from an air quality perspective, so she'll speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just very briefly going to set the stage for why heat pumps are so important in the Cowichan Valley. As most of you know, they are a climate-friendly alternative, but for us living in the Cowichan Valley, we also have to think about our unique topography. We are living in a valley, literally surrounded by mountains, which is pretty much like living in a soup bowl. And because of our topography, the venting index is often poor and I'm going to explain venting index very briefly. And we experience weather inversions. So venting index is a measure of how well ground winds are mixing with higher atmospheric air layers. And when the venting index is often rated as good, fair, or poor. And as I mentioned, in the winter time, we often have poor venting index. We also have something called weather inversions, as I mentioned. And that's what you see in this picture here. And that's when cool air gets trapped under a layer of warmer air. So that means the air pollutants from backyard burns and wood stoves do not disperse. So imagine a lid on top of our soup bowl. So in addition to our unique topography and weather, we also our community is semi-rural. So many people here still use wood stoves as their primary way to heat their homes. And many of these wood stoves are old and inefficient, using a lot more wood than the new 2020 EPA certified wood stoves. And they also create a lot more smoke. So when you combine these factors of topography, weather, and the prominent use of wood stoves for home heating, we get poor air quality. And unfortunately, poor air quality also means poor health for the people living here. And data from Aetna Health shows that Cowichan Valley has higher rate of heart and lung diseases compared to many areas. And the next slide just gives you an idea of, so the pink line, hopefully you can see that is Cowichan Valley, and the dark blue line is Island Health, and the teal line is BC average. And it's showing the hospitalization rates for respiratory diseases per 1,000 children ages 0 to 14. So yeah, we have higher cases of asthma and a number of other health heart and lung diseases that impact both children and elderly. So to the good news is that we do, together with the BC Lung Association and the Ministry of Environment, offer residents up to $2,000 in rebate to upgrade old smoky wood stoves to healthier home heating options like a heat pump. And to date, over 1,200 residents here have already used this rebate program to make this leap. And if you want to find out more about our rebate program, you can check out our website, cvrd.bc.ca. I'm happy to hand over to Elena and Sam to talk about heat pumps. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Ilse. Yeah, my name is Elena. I am the one who has the privilege to talk to you about heat pumps today. I'm very excited. Thank you for taking the time of your busy evenings and days to learn about heat pumps. So we're going to cover a lot of ground tonight in that hour. What we're going to talk about is what a heat pump is and how it works in simple terms. What types of heat pumps are most common in BC, especially on Vancouver Island, and why we get so excited about heat pumps. I will share tips with you about things that you should know before you buy a heat pump, things you should know once you have a heat pump. We're going to share what people experience with their heat pumps. And of course, we will talk about the rebates that are available today. I'm also excited to share with you some provincial unbiased resources and the CleanBC Energy Coach service, where you can get a lot more information about heat pumps and all other energy efficiency upgrades in BC. But before I jump into the heat pump, into the heat pump world, I want to tell you about a very important principle, and that's the house as a system approach. So the house as a system approach just means that your home is one system made of components that all affect each other. And if you change one of those components from an energy efficiency perspective, it will affect other components of your home. To translate that into getting a new heating system or a new heat pump, it is very important that before you even consider a heat pump, to take a good look at your building envelope of your home. You want to make sure that your home is really well insulated, nice and airtight, and has new windows before you get a heat pump installed. because if you don't address those issues beforehand, you can have the best heat pump in the world and you will lose all of that or a lot of that heat to the exterior through the building envelope. So we always recommend considering getting started with an energy evaluation, specifically an EnerGuide home evaluation, which I'll get into more detail about that later, but it's an unbiased energy assessment of your home that will tell you what kind of upgrades you should prioritize before getting a new heating system installed. But without further ado, we're definitely going to talk about what heat pumps are. And to summarize what a heat pump is that it's an electric heating system that not only heats your home, but it also cools your home. So it functions as an air conditioning system all in one. And heat pumps are the most energy efficient heating and cooling system that you can possibly have. They're about 3 to 4 times as energy efficient as electric baseboards and even a super high efficient gas furnace. In BC, we're very fortunate that our electricity comes from hydropower. So heat pumps are considered almost carbon neutral in BC. So that makes the heat pump not only the most efficient, but also the most climate friendly option to heat your home. And actually, I do think that most of you already have a type of heat pump at home because your refrigerator is really just an insulated box with a type of heat pump in it. So I'll explain that real quick. In your refrigerator, you have refrigerant lines that give it the name. And in the refrigerator, you also find a compressor. So that refrigerant in here will absorb heat energy from the inside of your fridge that is then moved through the compressor that pumps it up to a higher temperature level and removes it from your fridge to the inside of your home. So behind your fridge, where nobody likes to look at what's behind your fridge, but if you did, you would notice that there's warm air coming out of the backside of your fridge. And that's really what a heat pump does too. It moves heat from one place to another. So let's take a look at a real heat pump. In this picture here, this is the inside of the home and this is the outside of the home. A heat pump is usually made up of an outdoor unit and then an indoor unit, like an air handler in this picture. And even on cold winter days, what the heat pump does is the refrigerant in the outdoor unit will absorb the heat energy that's in the ambient air. And even on cold winter days, there's still a lot of heat energy left in the air. And it will move that through the compressor that sits somewhere here in the outdoor unit, pump it up to a higher temperature level, which gives it the way heat pump, the name heat pump, and move it to the inside of your home where it's then distributed through ductwork inside your home in this case. And it can do the reverse as well in the summer. So let's picture a hot, humid summer day and the inside of your home is really warm and you just go to your thermostat and you switch from heating to cooling mode. So now the refrigerant in this indoor unit here in your air handler will absorb heat energy from your home and move it to the outside, pump it up to a higher temperature level and release it to the outdoors. And that is how a heat pump can both heat and cool your home all in one system. Here's a little, little GIF, I guess, about heat pumps. This is a different type of heat pump. So we got a smaller outdoor unit. And then instead of being connected through ductwork throughout the house, you have these indoor heads that are mounted on the top part of the wall. We call that a mini split heat pump. And you see the heat pump here in heating mode. So it absorbs heat from the ambient air and it moves it to the inside of the home, pumps it up to a higher temperature level in here, moves it to the inside of the home and, repeats that cycle. So I already touched on that, but let's take a quick look at the different types of heat pumps. There's many different types of heat pumps, But what we see most commonly used on Vancouver Island, and actually also the rest in BC really, is central system heat pumps and mini split heat pumps. So let's talk about the central systems first. The name kind of gives it away. It's a central system, so it usually has kind of a cube-shaped outdoor unit that then connects to an air handler that provides central heating through ductwork throughout the whole house. And there's also a special type of central system, and we call that a dual fuel central system. So it's called a dual fuel because it uses fossil fuel, usually natural gas or propane furnace that is integrated with the heat pump as a backup. So on Vancouver Island, the winters are very mild, so dual fuel heat pumps are much less common. You don't really need the fossil fuel backup. And a lot of central system heat pumps come with an integrated electric backup. But in the case of a dual fuel, it would kick on at a certain temperature setting. And the ductless heat pumps. I called it a mini split earlier because it has multiple names, but really what they all have in common is that they have this smaller outdoor unit, and then they connect through these refrigerant lines to the inside of the home. And usually there is one or multiple indoor heads mounted on the top of your wall that then distribute heat or cooled air to the inside of your home, and you operate it with a remote control. Other names for this type of heat pump are mini split heat pump, multi-split. They're called multi-split when there's multiple indoor heads. Sometimes they're just called split system, or there are forms of mini splits that are ducted heat pumps. So you can even have a mix between having a few indoor heads installed, and then a few people install mini ducts in the attic of the home to connect to the odd bedroom, or in crawl spaces you can install that ductwork. So it really highly depends from home to home and whatever the home's needs and layout and size are. Yeah, to compare them real quick, both heat pumps, mini split and central heat pump, provide air conditioning in the summer. Only the mini split ductless heat pumps provide zonal heating. So zonal heating just means that you heat only a part of the home to a certain temperature level. And only the central system, of course, requires ductwork. Mini split heat pumps can come with ductwork, but the central system is, as the name says, a central heating system that requires the ductwork. And what a lot of people don't know is that both heat pumps provide air filtration and dehumidification, which is a really big bonus, especially in forest fire season. So I said it really depends on the size and layout of your home, what makes sense in terms of which heat pump to use. But generally speaking, a central system heat pump is more suitable for a home that already has pre-existing ductwork. I know there's a few here who have a natural gas or oil heating system who registered for the webinar. So if that ductwork is in good shape, the opportunity presents itself to use that ductwork for a central system heat pump. For homes that have electric baseboards or wood stove, which I know is the majority of you guys tonight, a mini split heat pump is a great option because you don't need any pre-existing ductwork. You don't need to get that installed. And of course, homes that have a more open concept layout or the need for zonal heating, like in a basement suite. We get the question about cost a lot. I do quickly want to say that it's very hard to talk about cost because what I'm going to show you here on this slide is average ballpark cost. However, the data that we got that provided us, the data that we have in terms of cost is from an older rebate program that ended in 2018. It was called the oil to heat pump program, where folks switched from oil to heat pump. And the cost range of the heat pumps that were installed were very broad. So there were heat pumps that started at $4,000, and there were heat pumps that were well over $20,000. So you see, it's really hard with such a broad range to give an average. So what we show here is the higher end of the average range of the heat pump costs from this program. However, please take that into consideration, the broad range, because your specific heat pump for your specific home might be a lot less than an average $12,000, but it might also be a lot more. That's why we do recommend to get at least 3 different quotes and compare the cost of heat pumps. And of course, we're going to get into the rebates later. Okay, but yeah, why do we get so excited about heat pumps? I mentioned a few things, but let's go over them real quick. Really, it's that year-round comfort, heating and cooling. You get the most climate-friendly heating that is available, the most efficient heating that is available. Your home will be healthier, and you don't pay any carbon tax on your energy bill, which you already don't do if you heat with electricity, but for those who do heat with a fossil fuel. Let's talk about efficiency real quick. So some people ask, how can a heat pump be 300 to 400% efficient? Well, the very exceptional part about a heat pump is that unlike other heating systems like electric baseboards or any fossil fuel heating system, it doesn't use electricity or a fuel to convert that into heat energy. A heat pump uses heat energy that's already there. It uses heat energy that it absorbs from the ambient air, and it just adds a little bit of extra energy, form of electricity that you pay for, to pump it up to a higher temperature level. So instead of creating heat energy, it moves heat from one place to another while pumping it up to a higher level. No other heating system does that, which makes a heat pump just such a genius, exceptional heating system. I know that a lot of you heat with electricity, the majority, with a heat pump. Since it does heat so much more efficiently, you will get the most cost-effective electric heating. It uses about 3 to 4 times less electricity than electric baseboards. So that will cut your electricity consumption by quite a bit. And hence your bills are probably also going to decrease with that. I did mention the most climate-friendly heat pump or a heating system. I mean, this is partially why we're all here. Climate change is becoming more and more of a threat, and we have to address moving away from fossil fuel heating. So here is a little picture from a publication from the Capital Regional District down here on the South Island. And they had modeled a home, the same type of home, with oil, gas, heating, and a heat pump. I mean, it's really no secret that oil heating is very carbon intensive, but even in comparison to that, heating with natural gas is still has huge carbon emissions. And yeah, in comparison to that, a heat pump as an electric heating system in BC is using a lot less, it has a lot less emissions, and it is the most energy efficient type of electric heating as well. So now, I mentioned it earlier, but heat pumps actually do provide air filtration and humidity control. So if any of your household members has any issues with allergens, allergies, or quite frankly, don't we all really have more and more issues with the forest fires? Unfortunately, that becomes a very common threat in the summer now. And heat pumps really help filter your air all that. They help rid your home of indoor pollutants, dust, pollen, smoke. So heat pumps can really contribute to a much better indoor air quality and a healthier home. In fact, heat pumps are very simple to use. I will obviously share those operating tips with you later, but heat pumps use the set it and forget it system. They're very low maintenance. They don't like to be fiddled around with. So I will share that, but the great thing about it is you don't have to worry too much about your heat pump, and I'll share those tips with you in a second here. And this, of course, is only true for mini split ductless heat pumps. They provide zonal heating, and a lot of people who talk to us, they don't really want central heating. They want to be able to heat different parts of their home to different temperature levels. A lot of people have in-law or secondary suites. They want that to be at a different temperature level than the upstairs. So that's all possible with those mini split heat pumps, which is a big advantage for a lot of people. And heat pumps are frankly just the heating system of the future and really the present, because heat pumps, they are the most energy efficient. They don't use any fossil fuels. And we have this couple here, they live in Saanich, and for them it was really important to make their home more resilient or for climate change, but also ready for the future. They wanted to live in a modern existing home. So they installed solar panels. As you can see, they have an electric vehicle, but it was also really important to them to move away from fossil fuel heating. And you could say that the heat pumps are kind of the Teslas of the energy efficiency products. So yeah, making your home ready for the future really means getting a heat pump installed because of the efficiency. So I do know that a lot of you heat with wood or a mixture of electric baseboards and wood. We have this gentleman here who also lives in Saanich, and he was relying on wood heating and was kind of getting sick and tired of cutting and hauling wood into his home. So he chose to go with a mini split heat pump. You see the indoor head in the background. He now enjoys wood fire just for ambience really. And especially in the summer, he also enjoys his heat pump for air conditioning. That was definitely great during the heat dome that we all survived. Okay, I hope that you're excited about heat pumps just as we are. But if you are deciding to getting a heat pump, then here are a few things that we want to let you know about getting a heat pump. Our very first tip is choose a really good contractor, a really good heat pump installer. I cannot emphasize that enough, how important it is to choose the right installer, to really do your homework and do the research about heat pump installers, go through a qualified one, avoid buying wholesale or online. I will share a resource where you can find contractors in your area that install heat pumps and get multiple quotes from contractors. It is very important to compare what people charge, ask a lot of questions like, do you specialize in heat pumps? Do you have any references, testimonials? Will you train us in how to use the heat pump later on? How knowledgeable are you about the rebates? Can you make sure that you can look up whether the heat pump qualifies for a rebate, and so on. So that is really the most important tip. Quite frankly, if you have anyone that you know who had a heat pump installed and they were really happy with their installer, get recommendations from people you know in your area who were really happy with their installation. And the second tip is house as a system, as I mentioned in the very beginning. Please address air leakage in your home leaky windows, poor insulation, your heat pump will only be as good as your building envelope is. You can install the Cadillac of a heat pump, but that won't help at all if you lose a lot of heat through your walls, your attic, and your windows. So get started with an EnerGuide home evaluation. I'll share later how you can find those advisors in your area. And for one of the rebate programs, you will actually need an evaluation to even get started with. And lastly, a heat pump should be properly sized for your home. Ask contractors if they do heat load calculations, how they ensure that your heat pump is properly sized, that it's designed for your climate, and to consider supplementary heating. For example, if you experience a lot of power outages and so on, ask your contractor about those choices. Okay, so once you've gotten a heat pump, here are some things that you definitely need to know about how heat pumps work, because heat pumps work a little bit different than a gas furnace that you might be used to or electric baseboards. The first operating tip that we have is set it and forget it. So especially in cold weather, you want to set your thermostat to your preferred comfort level and leave it at that. Because heat pumps, they don't burn a fuel like oil or gas to heat your home. They have this refrigerant that absorbs heat energy and pumps it up to a higher level. That means it runs very continuously in this cycle. However, to get to that temperature level, the heat pump takes a little while to get to that level. So that's why we say set it and forget it. You can turn it up and down by maybe a couple degrees, but a lot of people, they don't get trained by their contractors how to use the heat pump, and they call us because they're unhappy. They don't find it's that efficient because they think they're doing something good by turning the heat pump off when they leave the house and then coming back home and turning it back on and expecting it to just kick back on and the home is warm in no time. But that's not how a heat pump works. It runs actually more efficiently if you just set it and leave it at that temperature level instead of turning it on and off. And the second one has to do with the comfort level as well. So this is mainly for those of you who are used to furnaces, especially gas or oil furnaces. I know that's not that many here, but gas and oil furnaces, they heat with these intermittent blasts of hot air. They come on, hot air gets blasted in your home, and then they turn off again. So for heat pumps, because it runs much more continuous, the air that's coming out of the vents in comparison to gas or oil furnace will feel a little bit cooler. That still means that the heat pump can heat your home to 21 degrees. That's no problem. However, if you have a hard time adjusting to that, switching from gas, for example, then turn your thermostat up to your comfort level. So to what you're used to. And our operating tips for just maintenance is heat pumps are fairly low maintenance. I mean, check the manufacturer's manual once. Nobody really likes to read manuals, me included, but just do it once. Clean the indoor filters of dust and pollen, especially after forest fire season. And for municipal heat pumps, just pretty self-explanatory, but check the batteries and the remote control and replace it if necessary. Every spring and every fall, you want to clear the outdoor unit of any debris, leaves, snow, dirt, especially after winter storms, for example. Just make sure nothing gets in there. And every year you want to schedule a servicing appointment with your installer. So that's another good question you can ask your installer. Do you provide annual servicing appointments? How does that go down? Is that included in some package deal? Yeah, it's good to ask those questions. So there's some changes. Heat pumps are different heating systems, so you can expect some changes, of course. First of all, no more intermittent blasts of hot air. Not going to go over that again. But changes to your hydro bill. Of course, I mean, a lot of you guys heat with electricity, so using a heat pump will use a lot less electricity, so you can probably expect a decrease in your hydro bill. However, keep in mind, of course, once you start using a cooling system that you didn't have before, your hydro bill in the summer will probably go up. For those of you who heat with a fossil fuel, there will be an increase in your hydro bill because now you heat with electricity. That will be offset by not having to buy gas, oil, wood as much anymore. And a lot of people are concerned about heat pumps and noise. So heat pumps do make noise. That outdoor unit makes some noise. However, compared to the older models, the OG heat pumps, the newer heat pumps are much quieter, especially the ones that have variable speed compressors. And every heat pump comes with a sound rating. So if noise is a concern for you, ask your contractor about the decibel rating of your heat pump. Also, every municipality comes with their own bylaws, so you can't just put a heat pump wherever you want on your property. There's certain rules of the placement of heat pumps, so it won't bother anyone. And there's lots of little things that can be done by installers, like you can put them on rubber mats, or a lot of installers work with hedges and things like that. So the city of Vancouver actually has a really, really great heat pump FAQ fact sheet. And when you get this presentation or a copy of this presentation, I highly encourage you to check that out if noise is a concern for you. It's a really great fact sheet. I'm going to pause here real quick, take a sip of water before we get into the juicy part of this webinar. Rebates. I'm sure you're all interested in the rebates, and the rebates that are out there at the moment are really great. There's a lot of programs. So I want to start with a little disclaimer, because Sam mentioned it at the very beginning of the webinar. All the rebates that we discuss tonight are current rebates. So they are offered as of October 13th, 2021. Rebates come and go. I mean, not very, very frequently, but they do. So if you're planning to install a heat pump, maybe next year sometime, it's definitely worth it to check the next website that I'm going to show you in a second and call an energy coach to see if the rebates are still around and what has changed. Also, the other disclaimer is the information I'm going to share with you is going to be a lot condensed into a very short amount of time. I could probably talk about the heat pump rebates until midnight tonight if you let me. So please do not get overwhelmed by all this information. If you do, I will share the CleanBC Energy Coach service with you, which is a really great team of people who can help you if you have any questions about your specific scenario. There's a few different people on this webinar with different types of heating systems, so we're trying to get everyone covered, but your specific case you can discuss with a real human on the Energy Coach service. Okay, but first of all, where do you learn about heat pumps and the rebates? This here is the CleanBC Better Homes website. If you haven't been on there, it's a really great website. It is government funded. So it was designed to be the main information hub for British Columbians to learn about rebates, but also energy efficiency upgrades like heat pumps, windows, insulation, and it comes with the CleanBC Energy Coach service. So this is a team of people who are very, very well trained in explaining how heat pumps work, what good options are, what an EnerGuide evaluation is, where to get started, and especially they're very well trained in all the rebate programs. So it's a toll-free hotline. It's not your typical 1-800 number. They really know their stuff. They're available from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And you can also email them at ask@betterhomesbc.ca. And the website, the overall website is betterhomesbc.ca. So whenever, if you get confused in any kind of way tonight, definitely call or email an energy coach and they're happy to help you. And Better Homes, the CleanBC Better Homes website comes with a rebate search tool. The rebate search tool, you just have to indicate that you're renovating a home as opposed to building a home. You can type in your location. So for example, Comox or Nanaimo, or Duncan, wherever you are. And then you just have to indicate how your home is heated. And you get a long list of all kinds of rebates you could potentially qualify for. So for example, if you click on the central air source heat pump rebate, then you will get to a summary page. And that summary page really tells you everything you need to know about that rebate, from eligibility requirements to deadlines, application steps, and so on. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the actual rebates. There are two major rebate programs out there at the moment. There's a provincial one and a federal one. They're two totally separate programs. So I'm going to start with the provincial one. The provincial one is called the CleanBC Better Homes Rebates. And there's just some general eligibility criteria. To summarize that, you have to live in a single family home, side-by-side row home, a duplex, or a mobile home on a permanent foundation. The rebate values, so how much you get, is definitely dependent on how you heat your home before you get the heat pump installed. So I will share those amounts with you in a second. And the heat pump must become the primary heating system of the home. So if you get a heat pump installed just for air conditioning, you won't be able to get a rebate. And not any heat pump qualifies for the rebates. They have to meet certain energy efficiency standards, so they have to be found on a qualifying product list. So now I'm going to go over the different rebate amounts that you can get depending on what your heating system is right now. Starting with heated, if your home is heated with electricity, like electric baseboards or an electric furnace. If you switch to a mini split or multi-split heat pump, it's $1,000. And if you switch to the central systems with ductwork throughout the house, it's currently $2,000. If you already do have a heat pump at home, which I don't believe anyone does tonight, you can't replace an older heat pump with a new one and get a rebate through this program. But what you need to know for all those who are heated with electricity is that the rebate comes from BC Hydro. And in order to check your eligibility, you have to use their eligibility tool. It's just bchydro.com/hero/eligibility. It's also on the summary pages on the website. And you just have to enter your BC Hydro account number and the square footage of your home, and BC Hydro will tell you if you qualify or not. The next one is for wood heated homes. I know there's a bunch here too. It's the same rebate amounts, $1,000 for mini and multi-split heat pumps and $2,000 for central system heat pumps. And then there might be a few of you who are like, but I heat with electricity and wood, so which one am I? In that case, you just use that same eligibility tool that BC Hydro has. If you fail the tool, they consider you to be wood heated. If it's a success, then it means that your home is electrically heated. You see the rebate amounts are the same. And what I'm going to say now is just for those of you who heat with gas, oil, or propane, the rebates are significantly larger for gas, oil, or propane heated homes, because as of September 28th, just about 2 weeks ago, BC Hydro announced their new electrification plan. So since then, BC Hydro tops up the normal heat pump rebate for homes that fuel switch with $3,000 automatically. And that is for all heat pumps that are invoiced on or after September 28th this year. So let's take a look at that. This here is for fossil fuel heated homes. So that means oil, gas, or propane. And the rebates for mini split and essential system are $6,000. So that includes that $3,000 top up from BC Hydro. There's also a few other heat pump types. I'm going to jump over that basically, but those dual fuel heat pumps that use fossil fuel, they only get a $3,000 rebate. There's heat pumps that don't heat, that aren't used for forced air heating, but for in-floor heating or with radiators. There's a rebate for that as well. And for those of you who have oil, gas, or propane and switch to a heat pump, you may have to upgrade your electric service. Some homes have to do that to higher amps. And if you do that in combination with a heat pump, you can get a $500 rebate for that. So that was the rebates. There is an alternative for rebates because rebate basically means you pay for the upgrade and then you apply and you get reimbursed. There is an alternative for people who would prefer financing. This is only available for those who have oil, gas, or propane. So if you're heating with electricity, you cannot do the financing. But basically, you finance your heat pump at a very low rate, in fact, 0%. And the loan is between $1,000 and $40,000. You can either get the rebate or financing, but not both. And it has to be done by a specific contractor because they set you up with a loan. Yeah, again, you have to heat with oil, gas, or propane. And homes primarily heated by wood or electricity aren't eligible. The group purchase rebate is really just a great add-on to the heat pump rebates. Again, also only available for fossil fuel switching, so from oil, gas, propane to a heat pump. And what the group purchase rebate does is basically it rewards groups of people, that could be a community group or you and your neighbors, your coworkers, to install a heat pump around the same time. They can register or join an existing group. And then depending on the group size, each member of the group gets an extra rebate top up, so to speak, on top of their normal rebate. So if you manage to get 7 people together to all install a heat pump at around the same time and register for this program, then each of you gets $275 on top. And certain municipalities do have municipal top ups. And I mean, of course, Jessica and Ilse, they mentioned the really great wood stove exchange programs. They aren't part of those municipal top ups, but in your area, there might be a lot of extra rebates available that you can get. So definitely check out the rebate search tool and they will show up for you, or call an energy coach. They can customize an email for you, for example, where they get all the local rebates and extra offers in. So you might wonder, where did I find a heat pump contractor though? And luckily on the CleanBC website, since it is an information hub, an unbiased one, you can find heat pump contractors through a search tool. So you can either find it on this menu button here, about halfway down the list, it says find a contractor, or directly on betterhomesbc.ca/PRC, stands for Program Registered Contractor. You don't have to work with those contractors on that list. It just means that they went through additional rebate program training. So that's a really, really great place to start. But again, we do recommend reaching out to about 3 or more contractors for quotes. That's it in terms of provincial rebates. Now I'm going to introduce a fairly new program to use, at least new since this year, and that is the federal program, the new Canada Greener Homes program. Canada Greener Homes launched in May this year, and it is totally separate from the CleanBC rebates, so it has its own set of requirements, but it offers up to $5,000 for all kinds of energy efficiency upgrades. That could be insulation or windows or solar panels, or a mix of all of them, but it maxes out at $5,000. And it also gives you $600 towards an Energat home evaluation, because for this federal program, you have to get an Energat home evaluation before you get anything installed and after. For this federal program, the home must be the primary residence of the homeowner. So if you're a homeowner, but you're renting your home out to tenants, then it's not eligible. You as the homeowner have to use that as your primary residence. And the great news is you can stack those rebates with the provincial CleanBC rebates up to 100% of the cost. A lot of information, of course. So you might wonder, where do I even get started with all of this? Well, first of all, highly recommend to call an energy coach to discuss your specific case, or email them. But if you wanted to maximize your rebates through Canada Greener Homes and through the provincial CleanBC program, then it's definitely recommended to start with an Energat home evaluation, because for Canada Greener Homes, it's a requirement. You find energy advisors also on the Better Homes BC website under the menu button, or directly betterhomesbc.ca/EA for energy advisor. And then for Canada Greener Homes, you have to register in a federal portal where you officially request an Energat home evaluation. And then just some tips before you go and do your research and talk to energy coaches. Both provincial and federal programs have their own set of program requirements, so be sure to review all the requirements. Canada Greener Homes doesn't have a deadline right now at all. There's no deadline, but all the CleanBC rebates have a 6-month deadline to apply from the evaluation or invoice date. So if you get a heat pump installed, you have 6 months to apply. So don't wait till the very end. Just apply as you go along. And Canada Greener Homes, you apply for everything at the very end when you're done with everything and you had your second evaluation. So keep that in mind, the different deadlines. Okay, that was a lot of information. I saw that there were a bunch of people in the chat asking questions, but I want to introduce some contact information to you here. First and foremost, the CleanBC Energy Coach service. I do really encourage you, if you found that way too overwhelming, to email or call them to discuss your case. And then for the federal program, the CleanBC Energy Coaches, they can definitely give you the basic information about the federal program and where to get started and all that. But if you have any specific questions, you can always contact the federal program directly as well under this phone number and the world's longest email address, at least the longest one that I've ever seen. And for the provincial programs, there's also the BC Hydro and FortisBC program administration that you can contact. And then we also got some programs, some contacts for the RDN and CVRD. So you can reach them at sustainability@rdn.bc.ca, and the CVRD can be also reached under these email addresses. I'm sure there's some questions. I'm going to leave open the email address and phone number for the CleanBC Energy Coach service. And then what's left for me is to really thank you for your curiosity and your attention. I really hope that you know more about heat pumps than you did before. And yeah, thanks for
for your time. And with that, I'll pass it on to Sam.
Thank you. Yeah, we don't actually have any questions in the chat. There was more so resources provided that came through.
Oh,
So it was a
okay. Yeah, I
quiet
didn't read
group
the
this
chat.
evening. But if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask your questions, or throw them in the chat if you don't feel comfortable putting yourself off mute. But this time is open for everyone who does have questions.
And Sam, there will be a copy of the presentation, right?
Absolutely. So everyone will receive a copy of the recording, the slides, and a Q&A sheet as well. And we do have a question. Okay, so how does the lifespan of a heat pump compare to that of an oil or gas furnace?
Yeah, they actually have comparable lifespans. So it also kind of depends, because we do get calls from people who say that their gas furnace is kicking for 40 years now, which I always find really interesting. I think the newer gas furnaces and heat pumps have a lifespan of between 15 and 20 years. So it's very comparable, but it seems like there's a few very old gas furnaces that are still running. So it kind of depends on when you bought it. And I'm not sure what exactly is meant by what qualifies as old vis-a-vis wood stove.
That one
Maybe,
might be for you
yeah.
guys. Yeah. Do you have a classification for the wood stove exchange?
Yeah, I can jump in. So we actually recently changed that. Traditionally, it was like pre-1994, but now we also allow people that have EPA certified stoves that are 5 years or older to qualify for the rebates. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and within the RDN, our program qualifications are still that pre-1994 non-EPA certified, but anything that's relatively high emissions. And we have a group of local vendors who work with us to help identify eligible old wood stoves. But generally what you want to go for is an EPA certified wood stove that meets the 2021 requirements. If you are using a wood stove, because they're just so much lower emissions if you're looking at a wood stove to wood stove replacement.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then there was one question about, can you talk about the heat pump with heating water as well? Yes, I can. So I'm not sure if you mean the heat pump water heaters for domestic hot water use, but really there's also heat pumps for folks who have any hydronic heating system. So that means they have a boiler that heats in-floor heating or radiators. There is a type of heat pump for that as well. They're either called hydronic heat pump or often called air-to-water heat pump. The reason why we didn't get into a lot of detail about them is because they're less common in BC, but they definitely exist, and there's a rebate for that for folks who switch from a fossil fuel. So they basically work the exact same as all the other heat pumps, but instead of passing that heat along to hot air that's then distributed through ductwork, for example, it heats water that's then distributed through either in-floor heating pipes or radiators. And there's also the heat pump water heaters for hot water use, domestic hot water use. They're called heat pump water heaters. And they also work basically the same way. They only come as storage tanks. So usually they don't have their outdoor unit that absorbs the heat in the outdoors. They usually have it on top of the tank, and that then absorbs heat from the ambient air. That's why they're most commonly installed in a space that's not conditioned. So for example, a garage or an unfinished basement. There is actually a rebate for that, both through Canada Greener Homes and through CleanBC. And that rebate is $1,000 for replacing any existing water heating system.
Awesome. I think with that, we will say good night to everyone. Thanks again for joining us. And again, you will be receiving a copy of the recording and the slides in the upcoming days as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.